So, good afternoon, or I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Um, Thank you for joining me, and wherever you are located and listening from. Um, Today is February the 23rd. I'm back at here in my little tiny studio, and it feels good to take a break from all the, you know, self-isolation, quote unquote, that I've kind of imposed on myself since the pandemic, um, just so that I can work on projects. Thank you for joining me. My name is Al Mina. This is the Face Economics podcast, where we uh, talk about, review, and also uh, kind of dissect uh, things that are posted on social media worldwide pertaining to economic development and various strategies that are being incorporated in the utilization of social media worldwide. As you all know, the fourth industrial revolution opened up quite a bit of opportunity, um, do it yourself, learn as you go type of environment worldwide, which was a pretty, great way to, um, increase economic development, increase capacity, knowledge transfer, you name it. It stimulates the economy when people are engaged in utilizing the social media platform to create, you know, uh, products, services. The social media industry, for example, have opened up quite a bit of uh, potential for various countries in various marketplaces. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that I've noticed on social media recently. And basically, let's start off with the European Union. As you all know, Europe is by far one of the most advanced economies in this, on this planet, may it be education or um, information technology, electronics. They're pretty competitive as a marketplace, and I believe we ought to pay attention to the current economic crisis in Europe, given that for many years, generations upon generations, Europeans have been pretty well off. But unfortunately, that's no longer the case in today's reality, just because of the disruptions that pandemic kind of inflicted on various markets, maybe Western Europe, Central Europe, or Eastern Europe. And one of the things that I want to kind of talk about is the way that Europe have tried to incorporate an economic development strategy for emerging markets of Central and Eastern Europe, which is called the structural funding source, where they basically pump money into various countries and help them develop their capacity and local economy to be able to, um, you know, gain similar um, position and a similar uh, quality of life to that of the Western European countries. So structural funding um, has been incorporated way back in the early 2000s, but very few people have really utilized the social media platform in Europe to be able to create opportunities using structural funding in Europe. So, I want to kind of just touch base on some of, you know, conditions that the European Union is now having to deal with, which I believe they should continue to use structural funding to and utilize structural funding to create new opportunities using, the social media environment, as well as resources in the fourth industrial revolution, may it be blockchain technology or 3D printing, artificial intelligence, anything that they can use to cultivate the market economies of emerging and frontier markets of Central and Eastern Europe using structural funding. I think that's something that they should really consider in kind of diversifying their portfolio in how to fund those markets using EU grant money. Another is we're gonna look down to the African continent, and what I've noticed is that there's disappropriate, disappro. If I can say it, may even say it, disproportion, um, disproportionate, you know, amount of uh, support for their digital nomads in Africa, as well as emerging entrepreneurs that are trying to utilize social media to help stimulate the markets within various African countries. I believe Africa in itself is you know is ready to take the next step in advancing their capacity using social media, and I believe that African leaders in various countries should support the initiatives of the younger generation, the go-getters and the entrepreneurs in promoting social media as a platform in which they can attract FDI, foreign direct investment, attract tourism, teach the world about the emerging opportunities in Africa, collaboration, incentives that they can utilize social media, as well as partnership that they can use to engage the world community using social media. So I would like to request for African leaders to please support your emerging technology sector, the go-getters, the digital nomads, the entrepreneurs that utilizes their social media platform and various technology to help stimulate the local economy. Now, moving to the Pacific Rim, the pandemic has significantly slowed down growth in the Pacific Rim, and I believe the reason is, there's simply not enough structure and strategy that is being utilized in those countries and markets. There's still a lot of distrust going on. There's still a lot of animosity, and that needs to kind of go away and disappear because let's face it, there's already a pandemic, there's already a crisis worldwide. Let's not try to make things even worse when people aren't cooperative and not wanting to exercise good judgment. So The Pacific Rim is definitely ripe for growth in terms of economic growth and market, capacity building. There's a lot of economic development opportunities in the Pacific Rim. The leaders in those markets should focusing on the future and focusing on the improvements using modern tools, modern technology to improve capacity of the marketplace, educate the population using social media, you know, make it mandatory for people in the Pacific Rim to learn how to use, a computer, how to use social media, their smartphone to, increase capacity, become more entrepreneur in nature, encourage the younger population to start their own business at a young age, just overall create opportunities where it will become a legacy and people would want to keep on, you know, looking towards the future and taking on the future using modern tools. Unfortunately, there's still countries in the Pacific Rim and Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and parts of Northern Asia that are just holding on from the past, and they can't quite seem to want to, move away from, disjointed issues, problems that aren't really problems but are made problems by people that are really, aren't that motivated to provide a solution. They're all motivated by pride and opinion, apparently, and it's not helping the markets in the Pacific Rim and parts of Asia. I'm not saying that this is prevalent in all Asian countries, but the majority of them are subscribing to, old ways of operating, mentalities, pride, and there's a lot of, issues that they're majoring in on minor things. They shouldn't have to worry so much about focusing so much of their attention on minor issues, focusing on bigger problems and look for a solution to those problems. And that goes kind of hand in hand also with other countries, specifically here in the U.S. and North America and South America and Central America. Let's talk a little bit about what's currently going on in the U.S. market. I truly believe that we definitely need to keep on putting more resources in the marketplace. Like there's so many people out there that tend to talk about, let's try not to support a large portion of our population, and they're talking about people not wanting to go out there and motivate themselves. A lot of this kind of it didn't happen just 2 years ago, a year ago, because of the pandemic. I mean, there's a lingering problem in America that needs to be solved. We need to find a solution to, not wanting to promote capacity building, not wanting to promote, the go-getter mentality, not wanting to promote, the more advanced, higher form of learning in the marketplace. And that's the reason why I believe we need to put more stimulus in the marketplace. We need to put more money in the pockets of Americans today, because in all reality, the reason that we're struggling big time in the U.S. is because we never promoted capacity building in the U.S. Not to the point that, we're similar to that of Asian countries where they continue to, support progress. They continue to link their attitudes and mentalities to social advancement and economic advancement. We need to incorporate that in the U.S. today if we're going to remain the leader of the free world and the free markets. Um, I just simply believe that we're behind in the U.S. in a lot of our, when we're talking about our abilities and capacities and um, our overall agenda in competitiveness. And I think that is something that we definitely should look into and promote within the within the U.S. marketplace in order to compete globally. Okay, so having said that, let's see, um, emerging markets and frontier market situations that is currently happening. I guess the pandemic actually, opened up quite a mixed bag of, you know, threats, opportunities uh, worldwide, as well as, strengths of societies and markets, and overall timing of the pandemic have really influences. It really influenced emerging and frontier markets to the point that they were not expecting. Um, and to some, they're benefiting from the pandemic, and others, they're actually struggling from it. And yes, most of the frontier markets out there are small, um, and they don't have a lot of, economic power, but they're also they're able to advance because of the pandemic, so they're able to export more and share and sell to other countries more, whereas developing countries have become stagnant because they're so connected to the developed markets around the world that uh, they're still basically on the waiting list, and they're waiting for more help. They're waiting for assistance from developed countries where, in frontier markets, they're pretty much on their own and have been operating on their own. So more they're actually advancing a lot, much more compared to the developing countries out there, like India, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, and these countries, even China, uh, have kind it is falling behind in their economic competitiveness because of the pandemic. So that's just the reality of things right now, and I hope people would utilize their social media environment to better, support and advance their capacity. May it be, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, or during the pandemic, because the world have changed. Everybody wants to utilize, the internet now. Everybody communicates virtually now. Let's, advance our societies and markets with our current tools, and deal with the situational condition in the marketplace. Um, Having said that, I think um, I'm pretty close to my allocated time. I've actually went a couple minutes beyond my allocated time, but I appreciate every one of you for joining me tonight. I'm, really having such a great time talking about, things that are happening right now in the social media world because of the pandemic. It seems like the pandemic have exposed an alternative to what we know, to the norms of the world. The pandemic had made us, and maybe if I can even say forced us all to think outside of the box And so, with this said, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for, you know, continue to support our endeavors. I hope you would share our Face Economics podcast with your friends. Tell them about the way that we're thinking, the way that we think different, as I should say. Um, and, we look forward to uh, answering any questions. If you all have any questions, please go to our Face Economics TV YouTube channel. We're going to be posting this video of this podcast on there. And if you have any questions, just feel free to make a comment below the video, and we'll try to address them on our next podcast. With this said, thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. My name again is Al Mina. I am the concept author of Face Economics, which is the utilization of social media worldwide. With this said, you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are on this planet. Thank you.